My bad, my people. What the hell was I doing? Instead of hitting end my share screen, I ended our live stream. My apologies, guys, there. My apologies. My apologies right there. Whether I get everybody to come back or not, my apologies there. That was press the wrong button. Ended the live stream when I was trying to end my share screen. So my apologies right there. I'm going to kind of just continue where I left off here and keep going what I was talking about. So my bad on that. I know there was a lot of really good comments that I was ready to get into and everything else. So my bad on that. Press the wrong button and I stopped the live the live broadcast there. So my apologies on that. What I was saying there was I was talking about JJ Redick, and I was basically just getting into how it was interesting that JJ spent some time and was talking about Rui Hachimura right there, and right after I was done talking about how obviously how important of a game it was going to be for Rui, how important of a game it was going to be for him to do what he does, and obviously such a critical player for the Lakers. He's going to be a critical player. So just the mere fact that they were talking about that, I thought was interesting, coming right into JJ Redick. So JJ Redick's got a lot to obviously figure out. Everybody understands that. Everybody knows that it's going to take some time, but it really can't take that much time because of the situation that the Lakers are in. You're going to need to win these games. So there's going to be a lot, obviously, that comes into that. If you're just tuning in right now, my bad. I accidentally ended the last stream. I was trying to stop sharing the screen of Spectrum Sportsnet. Instead, I just killed the stream. So my apologies on that. Let's keep going here. I'm just going to kind of keep it going. We'll just call this part two. Part one was the first 20 minutes that you saw there. I probably got another 10, 12 minutes here, and we're going to call it a night. Okay, so the other thing I was saying is, so here we were looking at all the starters. These are going to be your 5 starters. How competitive, how good are they going to be against the rest of the Western Conference and the top players in the Western Conference? We have to wait and find out, right? That's going to be, but I think that 5 has had a good track record. To me, I'm as concerned or as curious. That curious is a better word. I want to know how everybody else contributes. I need to know how the Max Christie's of the world contribute. I need to know how the Gabe Vincents of the world contribute this year. I need to know is Cam Reddish going to be a contributor, or is he not really going to be used all that much? Jared Vanderbilt, when he comes back, what's that going to look like? Will the Lakers just be depending on Jackson Hayes as a backup center, or are they going to go out there and go try to find somebody else? So for me, when I look at this Lakers team, I look at a lot of the bench plays. I know the starters. I know exactly what the starters are going to do. I know exactly kind of what happens in regards to that. That's no big surprise. That's no big shock right there. The starters are going to be the starters for the Lakers. And are there going to be, a number of different individuals, and are there going to be a number of different players from the starting perspective that are going to need to step up and need to have big games and the whole thing? Of course, that's going to always going to come with the territory. But the bench players for me are going to be so critical and so important, because if Rui Hachimura is not having a good game, you got to feel good that, okay, Jared Vanderbilt's going to hop in and they'll be just fine. If D'Angelo Russell's struggling from the field, you got to feel good that, hey, Gabe Vincent could come in and he could just hit as many threes as D'Lo will give you, but his game's a little bit different. It actually benefits some of these players in late game situations. Got to have a bench. Can Max Christie take his game to another level? You got to have a bench. So it's fun to see the starters. I kind of have a good idea and a vibe of what these starters are going to be, but I do look at some of these bench players, and that to me is going to be, obviously so incredibly important moving forward for the Lakers. All right, if you're just tuning in because I screwed it up, all right, I got Cisco that says, you still going to read my super chat? Send me the super chat again, and I'll read it. But don't send a super chat. Just send me a comment and just say, hey, Slee, this was the super chat before you screwed it up and you ended the live broadcast before, and now I'm back in for part 2. So, yes, I will read it, but put it back in there. One other thing that I wanted to get into, and I think this has more to do with it has more to do with just kind of the Western Conference and looking at the Golden State Warriors. I'm not 100% sure what this Golden State Warriors team is going to be. I know they have their flaws, but one thing that the Golden State Warriors do, they're going to play good basketball. So is this year going to be a lot different than the previous years, or not at all. They have struggled, and one of the biggest issues that they've had, and I think everybody knows this at this stage. One of the biggest issues that the Golden State Warriors that they just don't have enough size, and they do have their stars are getting older, and now Klay Thompson is not there. I think it's a smart strategy personally that they have gone a little bit younger, and what they do from here, we'll have to, obviously wait and see. But ultimately, for the Golden State Warriors, I'm curious about them. Watching them in tonight's matchup, you got the players that you already know. You already know Jonathan Kuminga. Um, now the Trace Jackson Davis. So they got a couple young players in there. You obviously know Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. I'm curious how Jonathan Kuminga kind of takes his game potentially to another level. How much Trace Jackson Davis is able in his second year to have a real impact. I like Buddy Hield on their team. I like Kyle Anderson on their team. Gary Payton II, I like. Moses Moody was an absolute baller, and maybe he's getting ready to take his game to another level. The problem with the Golden State Warriors is size. They just don't have enough size, and I don't know how they address it. I spent some time this morning when I was doing my show a little bit earlier. I was spending some time. I was spending some time talking about how both teams, I think, will try to be aggressive. They'll try to add to their roster, but I do feel like the Golden State Warriors give me a little bit more of a feeling as if they're going to put themselves in a position that they're not going to sit around and wait. They're not just going to kind of sit back. They were active to try to go get Lauri Markkanen in the offseason. So I can definitely see them doing some things and trying to be aggressive, but they will have to address that size, period. And I don't think if that size isn't there, I think they're going to struggle. All right, here's Cisco, who sent me a super chat earlier, but then I decided to kick everybody off the live stream because I was airing JJ Redick, who was on Spectrum Sportsnet. And then instead of stopping sharing my screen, I just ended the entire stream. Cisco had on here a little bit earlier. He was talking about Jalen Hood-Schifino and Maxwell Lewis. They got to go. For second-year players, they're wasting 2 roster spots. I got to be honest with you. Don't worry about those 2 players. If those 2 players, trust me, if those 2 players are not, how do I put this? I just don't think they're going to have an impact. So I don't think you have to worry about them. I think when you see players like you see right now on the current roster of the Los Angeles Lakers, how far down the list is Jalen Hood-Schifino? And listen, I have also, and it's not fair because we're only 2 years into it's only the second year of his career. So he's got obviously a long way to go in his career. But if you ask me, hey, am I confident about Jalen Hood-Schifino? The answer would be no. I think that pick at number 17, there were some really good players that went after him, just after him. So I would have some concern about Jalen Hood-Schifino. Let me go down the list, go another play. Maxwell Lewis, later in the draft as well last year. I wouldn't worry about those 2 players because I don't think they're going to get a ton of opportunities anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal either way. I really don't. All right, let's see what we David. David, did you have a super too? And then I didn't read that super because I decided to end the stream. Very proud of you for going on your own. Takes a lot of courage to do it, buddy. Got a long way to go, David. I'll tell you that. I will tell you firsthand here. Definitely a challenge. Definitely not going to be easy. I'll tell you that right now. But kind of, to be honest with you, it is what it is. I think, I've said this before, and there is absolutely no guarantees of success or any of that stuff. For those who don't know, I was at 710 ESPN, was there obviously for a long time, decided to call it quits there at 710. But no guarantees at all. So I'll figure it out as I go. This thing, I have a pretty good idea and a feel once the Lakers season starts how the post-game show will do, but it's trying to figure out everything else and go out there and get your own advertisers and run a business. So we got work to do and to say the least. But I appreciate the super. Very nice of you, David. Thank you very much for doing that. Sliwa ended the stream instead of the Redick press conference stream. I cut myself off. How do you cut yourself off? How does somebody do that? You know what I mean? Sometimes maybe the internet goes out. No, internet didn't go out. I just cut my own stream. Well, how do I get views on this one now? I got a part 1 of a game 4 preseason game, and I got a part 2 of a preseason game. So that's interesting how that goes. So all I'll say, and I think the most important thing to kind of take out of this game, is your two preseason games closer to starting the regular season. That's what I want to see. That's what everybody wants to see. A week from tonight, we're going to be sitting here, and Lakers will start the regular season at Crypto.com Arena against the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's when we're interested. That's when we can actually react to games. That's when we can give our opinion and our criticism and our praise, because they'll actually be real games. There's 2 games next week, but there's still 2 more preseason games. But it will be Celtics, Knicks. That's going to be the first game, and then Lakers will play the Timberwolves. That will be the second game. So something to keep in mind here. The last 2 preseason games, just a heads up for everybody. If you got some comments, by the way, feel free to throw them in. I know I had some. I had a lot of good comments about Rui Hachimura, and then I cut my own stream off. So if you got something, you could do it here. So far, the Lakers played Minnesota, Phoenix, Milwaukee, and Golden State. They got at Phoenix and at Golden State coming up here to round out the rest of the preseason, and then that's a wrap. 3 games this week, and then it's all done. Like I mentioned, next week against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not really sure what to make of Minnesota. They killed it last year. That surprised a lot of teams, and then they couldn't get past the Dallas Mavericks to make it to the NBA Finals. Kind of some new blood getting into the Western Conference Finals. But they traded Karl Anthony Towns. Some people love Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm not sure what to think. I thought Karl Anthony Towns was a baller. I thought they all got along and everybody jived, but we'll see if they're taking a step forward or they're taking a step back because of that Karl Anthony Towns contract that they wanted to get out of. Let's see what we got here. Celto says they didn't play Olivari. This was the guy that kind of went off in that last post-game show. They didn't play him a single minute. Don't be too shocked. Don't be too surprised. I would say this. It's preseason, guys. Don't worry too much about that. It's preseason basketball. Even if he got a ton of PT and he had a good game like before, what is it really going to mean for the regular season? I wouldn't be too concerned for that. You guys remember when I cut off my own stream? Are we making moves at the trade deadline? You know, can I say this real quick about the trade deadline? And I don't want to spend too much more time here. I do got a show coming up in the morning as well, so you guys can tune in. I'll pump that here before we get out of here. But such a weird front office these last year and a half. You know, you make all the moves before when you trade Russell Westbrook and you bring in a ton of different players. Obviously, we know who they brought in. They brought Rui in. They brought D'Angelo Russell in. They brought in some different players. Was it Malik Beasley at that time too, I think? But they brought in some different guys. And then it's been really, really quiet. Last trade deadline, nothing happens. This summer, nothing happened other than drafting Dalton Connect and Bronny James. And that was it. So you got 2 draft picks left, 2 future first rounders. You know, some of the people that I've talked to that cover the team. I know a lot of Laker fans feel the same way. There has been this, I don't know, frustration is the right way to put it, but there's been this, hey, I don't know if this roster is good enough to go compete. You got to go make moves. Then you got the front office that's sitting back and saying, okay, well, we're not going to make moves just to make them. We got to make the right moves. Okay, I respect that. I understand where they're coming from. But if not now, then when? Because if we got past, let's say, this upcoming trade deadline, I feel like D'Angelo Russell's been traded 9 times for the Lakers already. He's obviously yet to be traded, at least this iteration. He's been traded plenty of times in his career. So would they do something at the trade deadline? I would say this. I'd be surprised if they didn't. But I was surprised that they didn't do anything in the offseason. So I think I guess we shouldn't be surprised based on what the Lakers end up doing. I guess we really shouldn't. All right, let's see what we got here. I love Julius Randle on the Lakers. I loved Julius Randle on the Lakers. If if we give up two firsts for Grant, everyone's mad. If we give up two firsts for Kessler, it's going to be damn. Why would Rob finesse us? Laker fans need to get a grip and be pragmatic about these things. I think it is. I think no matter what, let me answer one more of these because I think it's coming here. Tell me a trade that we should have done. Well, I'll tell you this, and I, off the top of my head, I'd have to really kind of sit there, but I think there have been moves that have been made, and I do think other teams have been active, and I don't really like the excuse of, I'm not really a big fan of that excuse of, well, how do I put this? I hear a lot of people say, don't make a move just to make a move. I don't disagree with that, but I think it's clear with the roster and LeBron James and Anthony Davis and their age. I think it's clear that you can't really sit pat. I don't think you're keeping Anthony Davis and LeBron James and you're trying to win right now, or you're not, and you're kind of rebuilding. I think sitting in that middle doesn't help anybody. Being 6 through 10 in the Western Conference is not a path to go try to get an NBA championship or go actually compete for an NBA championship. So that's what I think when people say that. I think it has more to do with the fact that you're looking at your roster and you don't really think that you could make a legitimate run. And the front office and Rob Pelinka hasn't helped himself. He's the one that said, I have 3 first-round picks to work with. He's the one that said, I have 2 first-round picks to work with. I mean, at last trade deadline, I was sitting right there. I listened to Rob Pelinka say that they got a lot of assets. You can't buy a house that's not for sale. And he kind of set everything up for the summer. If the front office or Rob Pelinka said, guys, we're not moving the picks, I don't know what you want me to tell you. We're also worried about our future, this and that, then that's a different story. And that obviously didn't happen. All right. Do we got a couple more comments here and then we'll call it a day? Lakers top 6 in the West. Don't underestimate us. 6 is realistic. I think 6 is realistic. I don't think they're going to be top 4, and they're going to need a lot of things to kind of go their way from a health perspective. I think those things are going to also be important, but I think 6 is, realistic, but that might be on the top scale of what they could probably do. Okay. Let me kind of, real quickly explain, tomorrow, those that are hanging out right now, obviously doing a post-game show during the preseason. I don't know if I typically was doing post-game shows in the preseason, but anyways, only a couple left here. I don't think I could do the back-to-back, but I'll definitely do one of those final 2 preseason games. But something to keep in mind. So I am doing a show now Monday through Friday right here on YouTube starting at 8 a.m. So tomorrow morning I will have a show at 8 a.m., go 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We'll talk a little bit of about the Lakers, and I have a few topics that I want to hit on here with them, and specifically kind of where I think they're going to be in the Western Conference. But tomorrow I'm also going to have on John Hartung, who, if you guys know, Spectrum Sportsnet does the pregame show for the Dodgers broadcast on Spectrum Sportsnet, pre and post. John's going to join me on the show. He's going to hang out, probably talk a good maybe 20, 25 minutes on the Dodgers-Mets Game 3 coming up from Citi Field. So he's going to join me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So if you guys want to hang out for that, please feel free to do so. If you're hanging out right now, thank you for doing so at night. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for hanging out. And next time, what I'm going to do is not cut off my own live stream and have to start my own live stream again. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Lakers lose to the Golden State Warriors. 111-97, the final score. Thank you for hanging out, guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. See you tomorrow morning.